In every generation, there comes a moment when the system begins to crack. When the streets go silent and the truth starts to whisper through the noise. They told us the economy was unbreakable. They told us growth was forever. But behind every number, every promise, someone was paying the price. Factories fell quiet. Markets trembled. The rich grew richer, while the hands that built everything were left empty. This isn't just a story about money. It's a story about power. Who holds it, who loses it, and who dares to take it back. Because when the world you trusted starts to collapse, you have two choices: kneel or rebuild. From the ashes of the old order, a new generation rises. One that refuses to stay silent. One that understands. Awareness is the new revolution. This is the turning point. The moment when everything changes. Welcome to the collapse of power. In the hidden corners of the world's power structure, decisions are made that shape the fate of nations and the lives of ordinary people who never even know they were part of the equation. Behind every economic boom, every sudden collapse, and every political shift, there are forces quietly pulling the strings, unseen, but deeply felt. This is not a story of coincidence or chaos. It's a story of control, of how a few individuals and institutions have mastered the art of turning crisis into opportunity, and opportunity into dominance. It begins not in the spotlight of public life, but in the shadows, in meeting rooms where no cameras are allowed, where strategies are written not for the next quarter, but for the next generation. Here, economic models are not tools for growth, they're weapons of influence, reshaping the world according to the desires of those who already hold the keys to power. The system is built to appear complex, wrapped in layers of jargon and policy, but at its core, it's simple. Those who control capital control the future. The rest? They're taught to believe the system is too complicated to question. History has shown us that every empire, no matter how powerful, begins with an illusion. The illusion of stability. But underneath, the cracks always start small. A market shift, a banking failure, a nation drowning in debt. To the public, these events appear separate, accidents of fate. But to those who truly understand the game, they're pieces of a long-term design. And in that design, there are no coincidences, only calculations. As economies rise and fall, the cycle repeats. Each crisis wipes away the old and brings in the new. But somehow, the same few always end up on top. Ordinary families lose their homes, jobs, and savings, while a select elite quietly accumulate even more wealth, buying up what's left at a fraction of its wellness. In this world, chaos isn't feared, it's manufactured. Because in chaos lies opportunity, and in opportunity lies control. But this time, the patterns are becoming harder to hide. Around the globe, more people are beginning to see through the illusion, to question the systems that claim to serve them, but instead enslave them in cycles of debt and dependency. As the curtain lifts, what's revealed is not a conspiracy, but a design so deeply woven into society that it feels natural. Yet once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is the story of how power moves, quietly, relentlessly, and always toward itself. As economies expand and contract, the script remains the same. When times are good, the powerful call it prosperity. When times collapse, they call it correction. But behind those polite words lies a brutal truth. Every financial disaster leaves ordinary people scrambling, while those at the top consolidate even more control. Take a closer look, and you'll see a pattern that stretches back centuries. Every market crash, every currency devaluation, every sudden crisis. They're not simply random events. They are mechanisms, designed to reset the board, to shake out the weak, and to let the strong buy cheap what they once sold for gold. Governments step in, promising stability. Central banks print trillions. Politicians talk about recovery. But recovery for whom? The small business owner forced to close their doors. The families who lose everything when the markets fall. Or the institutions that created the crisis in the first place and now receive billions in bailouts? It's a quiet redistribution, not of wealth, but of power. Because money, at its core, is influence. And those who create it, control it, and circulate it, rule not just markets, but minds. Technology has only made this control more efficient. Algorithms now monitor every transaction, every trade, every digital move. The flow of information, once a weapon of the people, has become another tool of the elite. The line between economic manipulation and psychological influence has blurred. Every advertisement, every trending topic, every financial headline feeds into a larger system of conditioning, shaping how people spend, what they fear, and who they blame when the system falters. The illusion of choice hides the machinery of control, and yet, cracks are forming. More people are awakening to the patterns. Independent voices are questioning the narrative, exposing the invisible architecture of manipulation that drives our modern world. But awareness alone isn't enough, because the system thrives not on ignorance, but on dependency. The deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. Crises are not failures, they are part of the design. Each collapse transfers power upward. Each recovery strengthens the hands of those already holding the strings. History repeats, not because we forget, but because those who remember control the reset. In the aftermath of every collapse, there comes a strange calm. A silence filled with promises. Politicians appear on screens, assuring the public that stability has returned, that lessons have been learned. Markets reopen. The news cycle shifts. But beneath the surface, the same architecture remains untouched, its foundations stronger than before. The ordinary citizen sees recovery. A rise in numbers, a drop in unemployment, a new surge in consumer confidence. Yet what they don't see is who profits from that recovery. The system rebuilds itself around the same players, the same policies, and the same concentration of wealth. Debt becomes the invisible chain that keeps nations, businesses, and families tethered to the will of those who control the currency. In every corner of the modern economy, debt is disguised as opportunity. Credit cards, loans, mortgages, they give the illusion of freedom while quietly turning each decision into an obligation. You don't just buy, you bind yourself, and the more you owe, the less you own. Behind the polished glass of corporate towers and trading floors, strategies are drawn that dictate the flow of global capital. Markets rise not because of production or innovation, but because of speculation. Entire industries now exist not to create, but to bet, to manipulate, to move numbers in ways that generate wealth without value. And while citizens debate left versus right, the true divide deepens between those who play the game and those who are played by it. The powerful do not care about ideology. They care about outcomes, about maintaining control of the levers that decide who eats and who starves. Technology, once a symbol of progress, now accelerates this imbalance. Digital currencies, blockchain, and AI-driven finance promise transparency, yet they're often just another layer of surveillance, a way to trace, predict, and ultimately steer human behavior. The dream of decentralization has, in many cases, become a tool for deeper centralization. But within this web of control, small sparks of defiance emerge. Innovators, thinkers, and ordinary citizens are beginning to build systems outside the reach of traditional power. Decentralized economies, peer-to-peer networks, and communities that refuse to play by old rules. They understand that the future doesn't belong to those who control the money supply, but to those who control the flow of truth. Still, the transition will not be easy, because every empire, before it falls, fights hardest to keep its illusion alive. The illusion that it cannot fall. The illusion that dependency is safety. The illusion that there is no alternative. But history whispers a different story, that every system built on control eventually collapses under the weight of its own deception. The storm always ends the same way, not with a bang, but with realization. A moment when people finally understand that the system they trusted was never designed for them. It was built to keep them chasing jobs, chasing success, chasing a dream that moves one step further with every reach. The truth is, the finish line was never meant to be crossed. As the world enters a new economic age, the cracks in the foundation are too wide to ignore. Stagflation, inflation, debt, and political chaos. These aren't random events. They are the symptoms of a model that has reached its limit. The endless pursuit of profit has drained the spirit of productivity, turning innovation into exploitation. Every decade brings the same crisis with a new name, and every time, the people are told to endure just a little longer. But endurance has a breaking point. Across cities, across borders, ordinary citizens are waking up to a new kind of awareness. The realization that power doesn't disappear, it only changes hands. When enough people refuse to play by rules written to enslave them, the game itself begins to crumble. And that's where real change starts. The working class, the ones who build the roads, grow the food, run the hospitals and teach the children, are starting to see their true value. They are the economy. Without their labor, the markets collapse. Without their consumption, the corporations fall silent. For centuries, the system convinced them they were replaceable. But now, with the power of information and technology, they're beginning to understand they never were. This moment, this turning point, isn't just about politics or money. It's about identity. It's about reclaiming what it means to live with dignity in a world that measures worth in digits. The same forces that created inequality can, in the hands of a united people, be repurposed to rebuild. The tools of control, data, communication, technology, can become instruments of liberation. As the curtain falls on the old order, new voices rise. Economists, creators, and citizens from every walk of life are rewriting the rules. They're building local economies that thrive on cooperation, not competition. Digital systems that empower communities, not corporations. They're learning that the most powerful currency in the world isn't money. It's awareness. Because when awareness spreads, fear fades. When people understand how the system works, they stop feeding it. They begin to invest in each other, in community, in education, in resilience. That is how revolutions begin. Not with violence, but with knowledge. So as this story ends, remember, every empire writes its own eulogy the day it stops listening. Every cycle of crisis carries within it a seed of rebirth, and every generation faces a choice: to repeat history or to rise above it. The economy will shift, markets will crash, and leaders will come and go. But the one thing that never changes is the human capacity to adapt, to rebuild, and to reclaim what was lost. The future isn't decided by the powerful. It's decided by those who refuse to surrender. The system may bend the people for a time, but it cannot break the spirit that refuses to kneel. This is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new one. A story written not by those who rule, but by those who rise.